Yeah, we're going to start. Is that okay? Okay, everyone, if I can summon you back from your caffeinated beverages to take your seats, we'll be beginning panel one momentarily. Please return to your seats so we can begin panel one. I did. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Like I said at the beginning of the conference, one of the blessings we experience of gatherings like this is the opportunity to meet one another, to communicate, to form new relationships, new bonds, which will hopefully provide the basis for future collaborations. And it's really heartening to see that already seeing you all together, talking, sipping tea, it feels as though the conference has already achieved one of its major goals, which is to bring people together. Our first panel is titled Technologies of Faith. And I think it The reason why we put this panel first in the running order is it really gets to the heart of the challenge of living faithfully and authentically, not just as a Shia, not just as a Muslim, but as a theist, as a believer in God in the modern world. Technology in the last 100 to 200 years has grown exponentially. If you were to go back 1,000 years ago and show someone living at that time, never mind a car, never mind an aeroplane, if you were to show them ChatGPT, they would probably think that you were a wizard. Technology has changed so much. It has changed our lives so much. From big things like artificial intelligence to things we use every day, like light switches and washing machines. The way in which we live has changed. And one of the big questions we have to answer, living faithfully in the modern world, is how can we continue to benefit from the teachings of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, and the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Salawat. Oh no, guys, I've been lecturing for like decades, and I think that was the weakest salawat I've ever heard. I mean, no, you see, that was, okay, so that was qadha of the salawat, but actually in this case, I think because I didn't just say I also said the Ahlul Bayt, we have to do kafara as well. So I want a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. You know, I have to say, guys, I'm not trying to be mean, I'm not trying to provoke you here, that's not my job, I'm an academic, but you know, I heard that Toronto, I was in Dar es Salaam last year, right? And those guys gave some pretty good salawats. And I said to the Jamaat in Dar es Salaam, next year we want to take this to Toronto. And they said, Toronto, I don't think they love Imam Ali as much as we do. I don't think they can beat our salawats. Or, yeah, but I haven't finished yet. There's a disclaimer to this. You see, I was talking to Sayyid Suleiman. Sorry, Sayyidina, I'm dragging you down with me. I'm using you as my intercessor. I was talking with Sayyid Suleiman Hassan last night at our hotel, and we were talking about a hadith and how sometimes when there's a scholar quoting a hadith of the Prophet or the Imams, and they can't quite remember the wording, because this is the days before Google, they will say, "Oh, kama qal." So everything I just told you, and "oh, kama qal" means, "oh, whatever he said," or something like that. So everything I just told you about Dar es Salaam Jamaat, I love them very much. I hope that some of them are watching in Dar es Salaam. I miss the Mendazi. Well, I mean, there's Karakchai here and Mendazi here too. So I mean, there's throwing no shade on the Toronto Mendazi. I love the Toronto Mendazi as well. Everything I just told you about them, I just want to add this, "oh, kema qal," or something like that. But my question is, I heard, you get 8,000 people here in Ashura, so I want to hear the salawats of 8,000 lovers of Ahlul Bayt, alayhim salam. Salawat. We're going to work on it. God bless you. Okay, so I'm sorry, we have a panel to do now. So we have panel 1 on technologies of faith. And how do we continue applying the teachings of the Prophet and his family in our daily lives when so much has changed since they were alive? When so much is different, how do we stay faithful to their message? And I hope that is what we're going to explore in this panel. And I'm really excited because this panel brings together 3 people who really, I have to say, each in their own way have changed my life for the better. And through their lectures, through their community work, through many things, who inspire me. And they are Sheikh Arif Ali Hirji, a very good friend, Alama Razia Batul Najafi, who, by the way, can I just say, has flown all the way from Pakistan to be here with us. So I think she gets the prize for, most distance travel to be at the conference. And then, of course, Professor Cyrus Zargar from the University of Central Florida, who's a very old friend as well, and who's also, who we go back a long ways actually, and it's so great to see him in person again because an ocean has separated us for too long. Look at me getting all mushy up here. But so this will be the panel. So we have Sheikh Arif Ali Hirji talking about the human, the machine, and the end of times. Hopefully he will stay to time. You know, the time won't reach its end. Does technology pose a threat to faith? By Alim Razi Batul Najafi. And then Inspired Wisdom and the Child Prodigy, Morality Beyond the Empirical and the Shia Hagiographical Tradition by Professor Cyrus Ali Zargar. So the way this will work is each of the speakers will come up, they'll present their paper, they'll return to their seats, and then at the end we will invite them to come up on stage so that you, the audience, both here in Toronto and at home, wherever you are in the world tuning in live, can ask them questions about their paper or anything that's arisen out of that paper, and we'll go over the procedure for that when the time comes. But first of all, I would like to invite Sheikh Arif Ali Hirji, Secretary General of the World Federation, to come to the podium, please, to deliver his paper on the human, machine, and the end times. And while he's coming up, I'm just going to read a little biography of his. Now, Arif Ali Hirji has had a long career in energy trading. He's currently the Chief Business Officer and Head of Analytics for LNG trading for one of the major energy and service providers in Europe. He has a wide career in the commodity trading space where, besides oil, natural gas, coal, and electricity trading, he has headed algorithmic trading, including machine learning and digitalization. He is a trained quantitative analyst with an MSc in engineering physics from the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm, Sweden, where he specialized in applied mathematics and financial engineering. He also studied business, economics, and Arabic. Sheikh Arif Ali has worked as an instructor and taught business, maths, statistics, and time series analysis at one of the top business schools in the world. Arif Ali has lived in Qom since 2011 to 2013, where he studied in the Hausa. In his spare time, he enjoys studying Islamic seminary subjects, and every so often, such as today, he gives lectures on both traditional and contemporary religious topics. Within the World Federation, he has volunteered in multiple capacities, and he's currently serving as the Secretary General of this august global body. After moving to the UK, he taught in the Shia Ithnashri Madrasa at Hujjat Stanmore and was head of its Tariq department. He is one of the organizers of Hujjat Academy, which since 2016 has offered foundation level and Housewi modules to the community. Now, if that biography does not tell you that this is someone who is intimately familiar with the workings of the modern world and has much insight, I hope, to share with us on that, I don't know what will convince you. And so can we please welcome Sheikh Arif Ali Hirji to the podium with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وبه نستعين إنه خير ناصر ومعين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد. First of all, I come first amongst the different talks because actually here I really wanted to come as a student of students, and that's what I am. I have never seen, I would say, in the Western world, you can correct me, having so many scholars from different places, and the audience is absolutely global in the English language. So it's an absolute honor to be here. And on behalf of the World Federation, it's actually an amazing milestone as well. Now, if you've seen the agenda, you'll see that there are heavyweight topics. There's such topics which I'm sure that we will be learning, getting lost, and asking questions on. So my topic is maybe the most lightweight, a bit light-hearted, and one of those which hopefully at least puts basics in place, okay? You know I'm from Scandinavia, so we play with Lego, and they'll be the first Lego pieces, inshallah. Can I have a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad? Now, the topic, my wife made a bit of fun of me. The human, the machine, and the end of times. She told me, you have watched too many detectives and uncles and maybe certain series. But I said, yeah, but it's actually not something which I got from ChatGPT. It's just something which I felt is the correct. You see, many a times we jump to artificial intelligence and we think that artificial intelligence is something completely new. First of all, I want to put that aside. As a practitioner, it is not new. But what has happened is that certain things have come together in the last 18 months, which has completely transformed. But I thought we start off with certain basics first. If I ask kindly that the first slide be put up, please. What I wanted to say is that one goes to workspace, conferences, discussions, school, and people use the word AI. I thought, let us just be on one page, what do we mean? And then we go on a journey together. Is everyone okay to go on a journey? Brilliant, ahsantum. For those watching online, I heard you too, everyone said yes. Now, artificial intelligence, it's basically a definition which is defined differently depending on which search engine you look for. But in essence, it's techniques which enable cognitive functions. What is cognitive functions? It means the way the human learns. I didn't say how the machine learns. The human learns how it thinks and then categorizes that knowledge so that it comes. For those who are from the Hausa, then nutq becomes very interesting, how it comes forward as such on the tongue or on the tip of our fingertips. But underneath there, people don't know often what is machine learning versus artificial intelligence. This is very, very important. Once upon a time, when I was about second year or third year at university and doing these modules, people who do engineering, they know that you study numerical analysis. And then you apply mathematics and you go to advanced numerical analysis. And then if you're really lucky, I was really lucky that one module, you had to do facial recognition. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created faces which are unique. He has created in His absolute wisdom a way that we can recognize each other, but with the multiplicity, it becomes difficult. So how do you deal with that? Well, there are models, but even the machines and the models to recognize face have become very useful of late, especially when it comes to spy and intelligence gathering and so forth. But in essence, you have got millions, no, sometimes billions of calculations to come to recognition of a face. But that's based on a data, and then you come and you combine with another database, and then you are able to then say, this is a unique face. Why have I started off from there? Because from that technique of facial recognition, so many other machine learning techniques have come about. Other things like, when we're at work and you want to see, okay, there was an email which came in and there's spam, how does the computer know that? That's machine learning. Through a pattern that this is how a fraudster works. Be alert, okay? So it's gone in. But then, where is machine learning and where is deep learning which comes underneath? Deep learning, its synonym, is basically neural network. That means that how can I tap into the brain? We try to copy and paste what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done on nodes, multiple nodes, no, and then the time of it connecting information and then coming to a conclusion, that's what we are trying to copy. So that's neural network and what some people like to say, deep learning. Where does then ChatGPT come in? If you're able to use these techniques which the human being uses and you do it successfully, and you combine then multiple layers of them. And to an extent, this is where the interesting comes, that you come with an answer which maybe no human has spoken or written, but it could be. It could be, or it is. Then the question comes, yes, we have produced a new product, but is it actually what many of the scholars say, is it trustworthy? Today, everyone can gather data, but can we trust it? So that's not going to be the next frontier. So I just want to see, have I made anyone fall asleep? No, alhamdulillah. I feel very, very honored, because now we're going to go on the next journey. And you know, all these slides, where it comes to the definition, it's actually a humble point. On this point, I just want to show that when I said it's not something new, you know, we've got lights here based on electric grid. I'm looking at my teacher, Sheikh Shuja, secret, once upon a time, he used to program traffic lights. I remember that, Sheikhana. It's not straightforward. You know, you get that wrong, you'll have tasaduf, barhurd, and you'll have accidents. When it comes to electricity grids, you need to balance, because electricity, can it be stored? Only sometimes. You've got Tesla or a battery, but you can't, yeah? So you have to balance at that time where a human being cannot balance. So you got so many computers. I used to work and I had a team where we used to run several hundred models, and we have people working on a different part of the world so we can balance it 24/7. And we have 26, 27, 28 countries in Europe which has to send electricity between each other. The closest I can say in Canada is the beautiful electricity system in Alberta. Got very intricate ways, but this is where the human can't do. And do you know that you actually trade, not in every second, not every tenth of a second, but actually on a millisecond basis, you have to predict the next part. Predict. Machine learning. This is what we take for granted. And actually, on multiple commodities, my teams and my work, we used to do this in 2015, 16. And people now think AI has just come now. Yes, there may be democratization of it, maybe. I like to look at the human being and its history. Would you agree with me that this is typically what we see when we flick through on certain YouTube clips, when we go in the books, and we say, once upon a time was the half-naked person who had, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave tools, different tools. No, I'm not trying to be thrown out of this place. And I'm not going into Darwin or Darwinism. I'm speaking about that if we look at just prehistory from 3000 before Christ, okay? And we go forward, then sort of this is the image which people look at. And I'm just thinking that a bit overweight guy there, number 3, that looks a bit like me. But I wear a gray suit today. But I hope that that person who is walking around here in Toronto is a bit humble. And I wonder if that person, what many people here think, is going to become a machine, a robot. Those who love Star Trek would think that that would be very cool. But some people, like me, would be very scared, okay? Now, walk with me. Now, I enjoy this, okay? This is a bit how nerdy I am, okay? So I thought, let us do a map of history. When we start off prehistory, before 3000-ish, we're talking about certain revolutions which happen. Tools, fire, the wheel. I sometimes joke. Somebody asked, okay, when did you start working after uni? I said, sometime between the Stone Age and the Bronze Age. And that works very well, especially for post-millennial. They'll think like, oh yeah, this is a really old guy. But walk with me. Everyone has seen that this graph is it linear or exponential? Ahsantum, exponential, you're with me. Why? Because something happens. There is a bit of debate when the human being started writing. Writing inside the caves, writing on paper, but writing. Imagine the person who was not able to write and you compare the person who wrote. Do you know how the difference, the Quran ayah about, do you think we measure the people who know and don't know the same? But that's what's happened in every part of human history. When that person was, instead of throwing a spear or an arrow, I can actually kill multiple people at the same time by the invention of the gunpowder. The human being's takabbur, kibr, increases, thinks she is more powerful. Then you have a printing press. Interesting, Islam has got a very interesting relationship as far as printing presses are concerned. Europe has a different history compared to Asian. For example, Korea, there was already printing press earlier, not jumping all the way to Gutenberg and 1400s, 1500s. You had it earlier. Very interesting. Mind you, there was somebody who brought a printing press to the Ottoman Empire, and someone said, no, we don't want it. Someone said that maybe that was why the Islamic civilization maybe lagged a bit behind. Something for debate later in the Q&A. The steam engine is what many people say, oh, now we're going industrial revolution. Imagine that we were competing with each other on who can run fastest. No, who's got the fastest horse or camel. But now we can move from one village to another in minutes. Oh, I can now speak to someone instantaneously or close to it by sending a message. Again, imagine the person. Sheikh Alex says, if a person would have seen ChatGPT, I guarantee you, people who would only be 50 years before the telegraph, they wonder, we don't believe in that. Plastics and the fossil fuel. Yes, I'm an energy professional, but today I'm not going to go in there, even though that is the most interesting things, especially what's going on in the world right now. The airplane connected the world like none other, but I would like to say something, if we connect what Maulana Sayyid Muhammad Rizvi said, as well as what the President, Brother Rizwan Khalfan, said, that you have a duality where some people can afford and cannot. And still today, depending on how far you travel and how you travel, which class you sit in, there is a class difference. And yes, maybe that the human being becomes more arrogant when they can, when other people can't. You have then maybe the greatest invention, the transistor, the thing which creates the digitalization for real. And now you see, we're coming now to the last 50 to 70 years. And you can see the steep. They're becoming much steeper. Here, we're entering the nuclear world. And I just wanted to, I can't help, yeah? This is something. I'm gonna go, do you allow me to go off track a bit? Just now, all right? You know, it's an absolutely interesting phenomena that many a times that when these technologies come about, we think this is like the first thing we've ever seen, this is like super amazing, never seen it. those who would like to maybe use the mobile phone, if you want to go to your Quran app, go to, for example, Suratul Kahf. Go to ayat 17. Allowed to, you can look. There Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says something beautiful about these youth when they are in the cave. I don't know if you come across this. You know, تَزَاوَرُوا عَنْ كَهْفِهِمْ ذَاتَ الْيَمِينِ وَإِذَا Thank you. Both the right and the left. What is happening? That the light was bent around the cave, inclined. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is able to bend the light. Of course He can. But think about the imagination about bending. We've not entered the quantum physics world 1400 years ago. Just wanted to go a bit like that, that actually within the Islam, within the miracle of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there are ways of thinking which is absolutely. And just as a side note, next ayat, just for extra bonus material, He says, I turn the youth to their sides on each side. It's a health physiological point of view. Think from a cell mitochondria point of view, that how the energy, if you are staying static in the cave for many years. Anyway, that's a side point. I couldn't help myself. When the space travel comes, it's something which says that now we've entered the modern world. I want to ask you, has anyone read or come across what actually happened when Yuri Gagarin left the stratosphere? And when he came back, what his first words were? Does anyone know? I can see some hands up there. But he actually said that when I went and God opened a window for me, I was feeling intoxicated, dazzled. And I felt, what has happened. Then if you're interested, go to Suratul Hijr, ayat number 14. It's a bonus material as well. And what Allah chooses when He opens the sky. Beautiful words. Remember, Yuri Gagarin said, my eyes were dazzled or intoxicated. Look at the ayah, inshallah. Then, of course, the internet came. We are in internet. There was a before and after. Then we have, one person said that Dajjal had come many times. When the TV came, Dajjal is in the home. Internet comes, Dajjal comes again. Mobile phone. But on every juncture, there's been a question, how will the world look like before and after? But now, here comes the point. The power of technology and computer power. Can I match the computer to a living object? A living creature. So it's not that far time ago, less than 10 years ago, that we equal the brain power of a mouse. I'm not joking. And do you know that it's approximately that we equaled one human being's brain power approximately 12 to 18 months ago? Yeah. What's next? Next is singularity. Now this is the one which scares many people. And I want to touch on that. What is artificial intelligence singularity? A definition, which is basically, can I combine all the human beings' power? No. Can I combine and that can think synchronized together? No. Can I surpass that and say that compared to everyone on earth at the same time, at the same millisecond or less, I can think more than all the humans together? Now that's scary. And what happens then? Now, those who like to read, and this inventor, the American inventor, the writer, Kurzweil, there are some interesting quotes. You know, here, for those who are interested, I can recommend some books. Some of them already written in the 1990s, further 1999, further, there are a few more. But one of the things which came, computers will have emotional intelligence and be convincing as people by before 2030. Prediction. He's got another prediction. By 2040, we'll be able to multiply human intelligence 1 billion-fold. So really, we're reaching singularity by that time. No, we are increasing beyond singularity by that time. But here I would like to go off on something, and I'll go 4.5 minutes, and now we're going to have fun. We've seen how technology has multiplied, gone exponential. How has then the belief of God gone? Now, if we look at some of the research and data which are out there, very, very interesting. You probably, like me, would have expected that atheism would have jump up. The red-colored line would have been steep going upwards. It's not. But you do see some other things going on. And I'm going to go a bit under the data. You can see that the green incline here going up, that's, during the Cold War towards the end and the Berlin Wall falling, and then you got the fall of Soviet Union, and people then saying that, no, I am actually identifying, believing in God, and I can say it openly. So that's why you see that. But, interesting enough, can you see that the yellow incline, which is basically yellow reduction, and we're talking about comparing those who are non-religious, that means God is not present. Not saying I'm atheist, but not present at all. That falls. Interesting. But there are differences in time. And this is where we dig into the data. And we actually look at the top chart. When it comes to the Western reformed world, which is Northern Western Europe, and I would say also North America, including Canada, that here you see atheism going up. But that's not the case in the East. That's why the philosophy of the East is very important to study. Very interesting. How the dynamics go. Social engineering within certain parts, very interesting. Otherwise, we would have said, no, as technology goes up, everyone's arrogance and belief in God will decrease. Not everyone. That's something which I wanted to touch on a bit. And at last, I would like to combine with this part. How do we go into the end of times? Beautiful saying of Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam. You may have come across this and some others which are close. I chose this one because, yes, there's got numbers in it. That knowledge, letters is used, but knowledge can be, bucketed into 27 parts. And the Anbiya, up to this point, have given only 2 out of 27. So that is how much? A bit more than, less than 13th. But when the 12th, Al-Qaim, will come, he will bring the additional 25. And I think when we call upon the 12th Imam, Ajallahu Ta'ala for we have to have Salawat ala Muhammad. A multiplier of 2 double? No. Quadruple? No. 13 times more. How is that possible? I leave you with another narration that can you slow down the time? There are some narrations that the time will be slower when he is there. But he at the same time have got expansion of knowledge. Now, if you speak about this before the time of the quantum age, we would not believe it. It's very much belief. You remember the ayah I said about bending of light? I think these are very important things to think about. I'm going to do something impromptu. Can I ask, how many of you were mesmerized this Shahr Ramadan by this beautiful show called Mahfil Quran? 7. Ladies are our sisters. They're way ahead when it comes to Quran. I see minimum 12 hands up here. 7 here. There is one hadith which says that towards the end of time, young women, young female, will be able to deduct rulings, jurisprudential, from the Quran. How would that be? Well, because the love of Quran is also there, so we can embrace. And you see, just at this juncture, I'm not going to go further, but this is where I'm going to stop, where I actually haven't shared anything with you. I've just shared with you some question marks, inshallah. Thank you so much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you so much, Sheikh Arif Ali, for that really interesting presentation. I think we all learned something there, and we'll forgive you for showing off with the numbers at the end. We know you're good at maths, but that was, these are exactly the sort of questions that we need to be asking as religious people in the modern world, looking at the trends of technology, where they're going, and what that means for us. And actually, one of the goals of conferences like this, of events like this, is for us to ask the questions almost before they become questions, to see where the world is going so that we can prepare for it. And I really love the way that Sheikh Arif Ali gave us those graphs to look at the trend of technology. And I hope that's something that our next speaker is going to be expanding on. Now, we are really, truly blessed today to have with us Alima Razia Batul Najafi, who will be speaking about, does technology pose a threat to faith? Now, Alima Najafi is an esteemed Islamic scholar and academic who has been affiliated with the Hawza for more than 25 years as a student, researcher, and contributor. She has a prolific body of work comprising more than 10 books. Her research focuses on the empowerment and transformation of individuals through the teachings of the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, and she is the daughter of the renowned Quranic exegete Hujjat al-Islam wal-Muslimin Muhsin Ali Najafi, who was bestowed the title Muhsin-e-Millat for his extensive contributions to the community. Alima Najafi has inherited a legacy of scholarship and service, and her expertise extends to facilitating workshops for youth, families, and university students on various topics, including time management, personal development, internal peace, relationship building, and spirituality. As a speaker, she employs a unique approach, which we will see today, inshallah, connecting with her audience on a personal level by drawing upon verses of the Quran and the lives of exceptional female figures in Islamic history. But what truly distinguishes Alima Najafi from other scholars in the field is her ability to seamlessly integrate the teachings of the Quran, the wisdom of the Ahlul Bayt, and the social aspects of human life, providing a comprehensive framework for attaining spiritual proximity to God and the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. She is fluent in English, Arabic, Farsi, and Urdu, and she is a truly multilingual scholar. Beyond her academic pursuits, she is an avid adventurer, having summited Mount Kilimanjaro and Nanga Parbat, and she enjoys spending time with her family. And so, all I can say is, like, reading that, I feel thoroughly unaccomplished in my life, and so I'm hoping now that Alima Batul, if you would come to the podium and share some wisdom with us so that we can follow in your exemplary footsteps. Please welcome her to the podium with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين وهو خير معين سلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله. After the month of Ramadan, we truly feel that this beautiful conference and the topic of Allah, God, in this modern world, we, inshallah, have this beautiful connection of Allah's message and Allah's beautiful book still within us. And today, inshallah, we are in month of Shawwal. The meaning of Shawwal says, "Shalat irtafa'at fihi dhunub." So all the dhunub, all the obstacles and hijab and wheels and shortcomings are just dropping, and inshallah Allah is keeping those away from us because of the connection which we are increasing even in the month of Shawwal, inshallah. So the topic which inshallah today we are going to discuss is about how science and technology can, inshallah, increase our faith, our iman towards Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, and it's not a threat at all. And yeah, I would love to start my slides, and I would love to say that we are celebrating, we are feeling fatah, victory, by having all this new information and new achievement in science and technology. And we are in this time of Akhir Zaman. I literally feel that the hadith of Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam, Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, he says that Akhir Zaman, some people, they will come, they will be more muta'ammiqun, profoundly, they study about the Tawheed, especially about Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. So this is the journey which we have started in this era, in this time, by looking at the beautiful universe which Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala has created for us. Okay, now, I don't know, I'm pressing, yeah, the next slide one. Yeah. Okay, so I would love you all, and inshallah we can just travel with Imam Ali alayhi salam, because when I was studying the beautiful journey of human being, so I was just thinking about this Saluni an turuq as-sama, the way Mawla Amir al-Mu'mineen used to say, come and ask from me about the pathways of heavens, yes, sama. I know them better than the pathways of the world and this planet, this Zameen. So when sometimes we feel that we or our youngsters are not that much, for example, towards religion, focus about deen, and we feel, the distance between the time of Ahlul Bayt and our time, so that actually we are behind, yeah, we definitely, the science, the way we are researching and reflecting, the time of A'imma alayhimus salam is far, and Quran is far, yeah, advanced. So the turuq as-sama, Allah tabarak wa ta'ala talks in Quran many times about لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا فَوْقَكُمْ سَبْعَ سَمَاوَاتٍ. Even we have hadith, ayat which says سَبْعَ طَرَائِقْ. There are so many turuq, so many paths, yeah, especially 7 heavens, وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتُ الْحُبُكِ, by the sky, full of, not dormant, this translation is not right one, it means Zatul Hubuk means the pathways, yeah? It's so many paths are there, and Imam Ali wants to take us towards those paths, towards those beautiful wonders of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. So, next slide, okay. I'm just clicking, but it's not showing there. Okay, so why Imam Sajjad alayhi salam is saying that this is the time, this is the era, yeah? In this modern world, we can be more tawheedi, we can be more towards Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, we can more focus about our akhirah and dunya both. Why? Because in the time of our Prophet, when A'imma alayhimus salam used to talk about heavens and about the universe and about beautiful creation of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, they would deny, yeah? And look at this ayat, it's so beautiful. لو فتحنا عليهم بابا من السماء, even if we just open to them the gates of heavens, and if we invite them, come, if you want to see the signs of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, come here. The way it says, فَظَلُّوا فِيهِ يَعْرُجُونَ. Every day you can go and have the mi'raj, and you can visit the galaxies and the beautiful super galaxies. But لَقَالُوا إِنَّمَا سُكِّرَتْ أَبْصَارُنَا. What they will say, even if they see in that time, they will say, you have just put it is kind of magician. This is not a reality. We are in the state of sahar and jadoo. So that was the excuse of in that time. If they would not enough mature, mentally. In the time of A'imma alayhimus salam and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But this time, in this era, the way Imam is saying, this is the beautiful journey which we have started, especially after the telescope of web jams, telescope, we can see wonders of Allah's beautiful creation. And then ayah said, وَالسَّمَاءَ بَنَيْنَاهَا بِأَيْدٍ وَإِنَّا لَمُوسِعُونَ. The way my father used to spent his whole life with tafsir of Quran, and within 40 years he has written 10 volumes of tafsir al-Kausar. So in that environment of tafsir of Quran and the family gatherings, I remember he would wait for the latest news of, science and technology. And we had the celebration, like we would be so happy. We would have this all news, the updated, the way Quran says, وَالسَّمَاءَ بَنَيْنَاهَا بِأَيْدٍ. Yeah, we have created our skies and the heavens with might, aid, yani taqat, qudrat, and indeed it is, we are definitely the wus'at and expanding, musa'un, the way the even space, the galaxies, yeah, everything is just expanding. Nothing is in their own static and fixed position. So this wus'ah, that the waves expanding, is a beautiful prediction which Quran has done, many years before. And when we see from the pictures of James telescope, we can feel that those are our eyes. That is the beautiful way to say labbaik to the ayat of Quran. That is the tafsir of Quran. And especially, I really want to urge and ask my mothers and my parents, the parents, they are sitting here, that we as a family member, we have to sit and have some discussions about all this new updated which comes from the technology and science, yeah, as a ibadat, we have to watch those documentaries, those movies. And the way I told you that ulama, yeah, mufassirin, they are I think, somehow the first one, they are the more updated one. And each news make them so excited, the way we celebrate in our house, that as if there's a beautiful victory for us, because those amazing pictures are just giving a beautiful glances of tafsir of Quran in our life. So next, inshallah, we are going to discuss about, next slide, sorry. Yeah, okay. Look at this ayah, yeah, Surah Anbiya, yeah, ayat number 33. Kullun fi falaki yasbahun. Kul. Like, it's so profound. Like, wherever we are, this ayat doesn't have any end. The tafsir of it, the translation of it, whatever, if you go deeper and deeper and deeper, you feel we are behind and Quran is ahead. Like each in an orbit, floating. Yeah, tasbih, from tasbih, sabaha, yeah, everything is not only floating, but we can see the way it's expanding, and all the mesmerizing news which we get, alhamdulillah. But if we see the history about the way, mashallah, our brother has explained very well that how we as a human being, we have started our journey only 100 years back. We used to think, yeah, science used to think the Milky Way is the actual universe. That's it. There's nothing beyond that. That was the way we have to look at the kainat, yeah? Kainat, universe means what? Milky Way. Then, after 70 years back, after the, I think, Hubble telescope, we get this news that, there are 55 million galaxies. And then now, today, what science is? There are more than 2 trillion galaxies, and each galaxy contains 100 billion stars, and it's just expanding and going, more away, and more updated are still coming every day. So it shows that our journey, our understanding of kainat is so limited, yeah? And the way Quran says, inna la musi'un, there is so much wus'ad, so much expanding, so much kulla yawmin huwa fi shan. Yeah, every moment, every minute, Allah is just creating a new creation, new decision, always this whole universe is, multiplying and expanding. So this is the concept of our beautiful book of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, which gives us so much faith and yaqeen. Okay, then, next slide, please. Okay, it says that أفلم ينظروا إلى السماء فوقهم كيف بيناها زيناها بنيناها وزيناها. Surah Qaf, ayat number 6, that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is asking us, أفلا ينظروا ألم يروا. In Quranic terms, it means that we have to ponder, study, explore. The way Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala talks to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and he says, Alam tara kayfa fa'ala rabbuka bi ashabil fil. Ashabil fil is the past, is the history. But what Allah is expecting from us that we have to reflect, we have to study, we have to, ponder about ashabil fil. So alam yarau or alam yanzuru, afalam yanzuru in Quranic terms mean ru'yat ilmi. Yeah, we have to see and we have to study about the science and technology, and as a Muslim and muwahid, this is our duty to be really updated. Okay, usually I feel, unfortunately, we are not that much like found of, especially we ladies, unfortunately, but the hadith was so beautiful that ladies would be more, towards Quran in the time of Akhiruz Zaman, inshallah. So that big change is coming within our community. But usually we don't consider, like for example, if you go to the nature, sit in the nature, if you enjoy the nature, if you study about the science and technology and universe, you don't feel that this is a biggest, greatest ibadah. Why we don't have that kind of feeling? We should feel that these are the ayat, the way Imam Ali alayhi salam is saying, come, I want to take you towards the heavens. Don't be attached to this, only to this world. Don't be so much, dunyavi, arzi. Come with me. This is the actual meaning of, Nare Haidari, Ya Ali Madad. Ali is there to help us, to take us. And we know that Mawla Ali alayhi salam was there to observe, to see about whatever was the beginning of this creation of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Nowadays the theories about Big Bang, but even it has been proven that, there was so many universe before the Big Bang. Big Bang is not the start of this universe, So multiverse is already has been proven, and the prediction is still there. If you want to study, better than me, you can just Google it. David Deutsch says that beginning of the infinity. The book is so beautiful. He says, if you really want to know about the beginning of the infinity, beginning of this universe, so we have to have yaqeen about multiverse. There are so many other universes. So we don't know exactly when the actual Big Bang happened, but Mawla Ali alayhi salam was there and he was observing each and everything. How we can prove that? Because we know that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala has created this dunya for us, this universe for us, and He has created us for Him. So our purpose of coming to this world is Allah. Okay. If everything is for us and we are for Him, so definitely teacher, the guide should come first. Therefore, Adam alayhi salam's creation, he's the first human, and Allah has created physically for this world. First teacher, then student. The same way, when Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala wanted to create the universe, He created first the nur of Madinatul Ilm and Babul Ilm. Ilm is first. Knowledge is first. So Medina and Babul Ilm, city and gate of Ilm, both are of ilm, wisdom, both of them, the nur, awwalu nur, they are just there. And if you study the first sermon of Nahjul Balagha, you will be mesmerized, especially now. Every year when we study, we reflect about all these beautiful sermons of Tawheed, especially Nahjul Balagha, about the creation of this world and this universe. You definitely, you will give witness that Ali, Mawla Ali is just there. Not only witnessing, not only traveling, not only, asking us to come, Ana a'lam bi turuq as-sama. I know better, come with me, don't be just stick to this world. Live arshi, live heavenly, the way mu'min should live, very high. It's her or his purpose should be so high. So that way this is our duty, yeah? So whenever we open the books about galaxies, about space, about cosmology, about universe, you feel as if you are just opening the book of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Because Ali and Nabi alayhi salam, they are the Bismillah of book, we say kitab takwini of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, because Allah has this beautiful universe He has created as a book. So we as a human being, unfortunately, we are just taking the baby steps, like the baby steps I told you, only 70 years back, we were thinking that everything is this, that's it. Now we are saying, ooh, there are universes, and that means, the science is believing on ghaib, because they didn't see it, but they have yaqeen. Yeah, because of science and technology, we have reached to the ilmul ainul yaqeen. Sometimes, we are just looking at all the beautiful, the tafsir of Quran by the pictures of those telescopes, yeah? So we all know Einstein, he used to think that the radius of universe is 10 light years. And now what we are finding that it's more than 46 light years. Where is 10? Where is 46? And we keep going, ahead, and the information is just, mesmerizing us about whatever Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam and Quran has taught to us. So it says that, the next one, Okay, I can just skip this slide. Next one. من اليقين إلى اليقين. So when I was reading this ayah, I was just thinking that look at the message of this ayat. Yeah, Anbiya ayat number 30. أولم يرى الذين كفروا أن السماوات والأرض كانتا رتقا. Ratq, like the singularity, and we can say joined and mutarakim together. فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا. Okay. Whenever I say Big Bang, big is okay, but bang doesn't have that much jamal and beauty in that, yeah? Bang, like, especially in like Urdu, we say dhamaka. Dhamaka is a bit, blast has a bit fear in it. Maybe it doesn't sound that beautiful. But the way Quran is describing, it has Jamal upon Jamal, Nur upon Nur. Falaq, Falaq al-Habbi wal-Nawa. Fatir, yeah? Fataqnahuma, falaqnahuma, fatarnahuma. The way Allah split, like the way sunrise. It has so beautiful. Allah has just begun this universe with so many beautiful nur. He's just splitting, yeah. And this split, this Big Bang, which we say nowadays, it happens every day, even in this earth. If you look at the seed of any fruit, for example, mango, yeah. So that seed has everything. The branches, the leaves, the fruits. If the tree would be fruitful for 50 years, so how many tons of mangoes we will get? Everything is there. And when we put that seed inside the soil, what will happen? That will split. Yeah, that is Big Bang. Yeah, so many Big Bangs are there. So this is the system of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Allah is designed the same way that He creates with falaq, fatir, faliq, and fataq, which says here. So fataqnahuma shows it gives that indicators about whatever until now we have some glimpses, some pictures of beginning of this kainat and this universe. And yeah, so that way I really want that inshallah we feel that connection to Quran and Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam by reading more, by reflecting more, and by studying more, because there's no any kind of proofs and evidence for atheism or for non-believers after all these beautiful discoveries of the universe. There's nothing, all the evidence goes in our haqq, Like, unfortunately, many times they are using these evidence, these beautiful discoveries, and they say, oh, it somehow, some people are, disbelievers, they say, oh, this is the proof for us. And sometimes we feel like that, but actually, this is our victory, this is our fatah, and we know that the topic of Wujood ilahi, the existence of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, the mawzu' is not science, the mawzu' is in falsafa. Yeah, in philosophy, you have to prove about Allah, about God existence. You cannot have any dalil by just, by the science and by the evidence which we get in this dunya. So, inshallah, my time is over, and I hope we should bring a big change in our mindset, especially by living in this kind of areas of the world. It is necessary to reflect, to spend time in nature and study the science and technology with our family, because one meal after dinner we sit together and we can watch and we can discuss. And the beautiful amal which I really like by Allama Tabatabai, he would always say that whenever you have negative feelings, just say 66 times Allah, only Allah, because Allah's huruf abjad is 66. Allah, Allah, Allah. And by having this dhikr from our heart and from our action, we can definitely connect to Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala and increase our faith and celebrate Tawheed in this era, in this modern world, by observing each and every day the beautiful new evidence and pictures and ayat and signs of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Inshallah, I hope we all increase our ilm and faith and nur by studying more Quran, by the book of Allah and by his kainat and universe. Jazakumullah khairul jaza. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
Thank you so much, Alama Razia Batul Najfi, for that truly inspiring presentation. And I think it's been really great seeing how this first panel is coming together, because the first two speakers have both beautifully brought in science and technology and scientific discoveries into their papers. There was a moment there, though, where I felt we had a bit of a missed opportunity, because Sister Razia Batul Najfi told us, showed us, demonstrated to us how the nur of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam was present at the beginning of all things. And I was expecting someone to jump up and say, Nare Haydari, but there was just complete silence. And Ya Ali. Yeah, I was about to bring the Dar es Salaam Jamaat back in to encourage you guys, but clearly that isn't necessary. But I think it's interesting. One of the interesting things about when we talk about technology and faith it reminds me of when I was studying in the Hausa. One of my teachers actually said, you know, we talk about technology and faith. So, for example, there are softwares now. There's Islamic research software like Noorsoft, which, you know, for example, helps you access books, search for topics, even validate the isnads of ahadith. And we're, of course, always developing these, you know, these new technologies. Even at ICAIR, we're looking at ways in which we can develop software that will actually help Islamic studies researchers carry out their research. And, you know, my teacher was saying, you know, when we say faith and technology, this is what people think about. They think about, okay, how can we use, in a positive way, how can we use technology to boost our faith? But he says, you know, what we forget is that faith is itself a kind of technology. And he said, you know, when people, for example, when people talk about going into space, and this is something that Alama Razi Batul just spoke about, when people talk about going into space, you know, if you build a spaceship, that's technology. Because technology is something that facilitates, you know, that facilitates human activity. And in this case, you know, a spaceship takes you from Earth into space. And so my teacher said, he said, well, you know, religion is technology, faith is technology, because faith takes you from earth into the heavens. So, and I think this ties nicely into the topic of our next speaker's presentation, where he's going to talk to us about moral and ethical technology and faith. And of course, I'm referring to none other than my very dear friend, Professor Cyrus Zargar from the University of Central Florida, who's going to be talking about inspired wisdom and the child prodigy, morality beyond the empirical in the Shia hagiographical tradition. Now, Cyrus Ali Zargar is the Al-Ghazali Distinguished Professor of Islamic Studies and a professor in the Department of Philosophy at the University of Central Florida. His research interests focus on the metaphysical, aesthetic, literary, and ethical dimensions of Islam's mystical traditions. His most recent book, The Polished Mirror, Storytelling and the Pursuit of Virtue in Islamic Philosophy and Sufism, was published in 2017 by One World Press. His forthcoming book, Religion of Love, concerns Sufi ethics and the themes of self-transformation in the corpus of the Persian poet Attar, and will be published, inshallah, in July 2024. And so on that note, I hope that Professor Zargar will come to the podium and help us engage in self-transformation. Let's please welcome him with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalam ala Sayyidina wa Maulana Abil Qasim al-Mustafa Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So I'd like to begin this talk with a word of thanks for those who've organized this conference. To Alex, to Sheikh Alex, to those who funded it, to all of you who are here. There are many communities where topics like this don't matter and events like this don't happen. And kudos to you for making it happen, and to all those who are working here, in particular Ali Mehdi and others. You guys are doing a great job. So I want to offer a virtue ethics approach to one particular incident in the lives of the imams that I think is illustrative of how we might consider the relationship between law, or what we call law, and what we call ethics, or maybe on another level what we call practical knowledge and divinely inspired wisdom. The account will be familiar to many of you if you know Shaykh al-Mufid's Kitab al-Irshad. That's what I'm drawing it from. And it's the account wherein the Caliph al-Ma'mun responds to his family's protests against his plan to betroth his daughter to the very young and inexperienced 9th Imam Abu Ja'far Muhammad ibn Ali, or Al-Imam Al-Jawad Salawat. Allahumma salli ala wa alayhi Muhammad. The sources tell us the Imam was 9 years old at the time, 9 years and a few months. And in general, the Caliph's Abbasid kinsmen expressed concern about Ma'mun's interest in forging ties between the ninth Imam and, as you know, before him, his father, Imam Reza, ties that would endanger their privileged position. Yet it is the issue of the ninth Imam's age that constitutes the family's key argument against the Imam's marriage to the princess al-Fadl, which they communicate using terms that I'd like to explore with you today. My interest in these terms, and the terms that are used, and in the response, and in what happens, and what ensues in the narrative, stems from my approach to the narrative itself through two lenses, through the dual lenses of virtue ethics and comparative mysticism. So, the caliph's family, the inner circle, the elite members of his family, they complained that the young boy, quote, even if his guidance impresses you, Ya Ma'mun, even if his guidance impresses you, is still a young boy. The young boy is just a young boy, right? He's a sabi. They continue, he has no cognizance. That's how I'm translating ma'rifah. He has no ma'rifah, cognizance, nor any understanding, fiqh. So give him some time to become educated, yata'addab, and acquire understanding in the religion, yatafaqah fid din. Give him time. The caliph responds to them, woe unto you. I am more cognizant of this young man's abilities than you are. He is from the Ahlul Bayt. Their knowledge, and here knowledge is ilm, is from God, from divine subjects of knowing, and from God's inspiration, ilhamihi, ilham. The word is ilham. I'm going to keep coming back to these words. That's why I'm focusing on them right now. So the caliph asks his family, if you have doubts, test the child. They offer bringing in a third party, an expert, to ask Imam Jawad a question about the understanding of revealed commands, or what they call fiqh al-sharia. At this point, let me point out that structurally speaking, the format of this narrative is parallel to the incident between God and the angels in God's nomination of Adam as his vicegerent on earth. In that narrative, God also singles out someone for an exalted status, Adam in that case, a special place, and there ensues a protest, or at least an inquiry that has to do with a possible lack of suitability. Therein follows a testing from which the hero emerges triumphant in both cases on account of divinely granted knowledge. And I'll come back to this. The parallels between these two narratives to me hint at the sort of knowledge being highlighted in both narratives. So I'll come back to this by the end of the paper. The young Imam, by the way, he's addressed with the utmost respect throughout the narrative. The young Imam agrees to undertake the test. Nominated as examiner is a certain judge, the head judge of that day, Yahya ibn Aktham. And to explain what I mean by head judge, or judge of judges, Qadi al-Qudat, it represents the further institutionalization of the office of judge in Muslim lands. So in the earlier period, before Harun al-Rashid, every town had its own Qadi, had its own judge, and he would judge based on his own knowledge, but it became institutionalized after Harun al-Rashid, so that there was a head judge. And the head judge, the Qadi al-Qudat, was the judge of judges. So he would remove judges, he would determine the suitability of judges. That's going to matter to the narrative as well, that he's a judge of judges. That matters. So the judge is there to test the Imam. And he asks him a very simple question. What do you say, may I be sacrificed for you, regarding the one in pilgrim sanctity, the muhrim, who kills while hunting? That's his question to the Imam. Hunting, as we all know, is one of the actions forbidden to a pilgrim in a state of ihram. The Imam responds with a series of follow-up questions, and I'll read them. I'll quote them. Did the person in question kill the animal inside or outside of the sanctuary? Was the pilgrim aware of these restrictions at the time or unaware? Did he kill intentionally or unintentionally? Was this person free or enslaved, young or old? Was he killing for the first time or practiced in that action? Was the hunted animal a bird or something else? Was it a small animal that was hunted or a big one? Was he brazen in that action or repentant? Did the kill happen at night or in the day? Was the pilgrim in a state of sanctity for the lesser pilgrimage, the Umrah, or for the greater one, the Hajj? The judge at this stage cannot respond, and he begins to stutter. So dumbfounded is the judge that the entire congregation, and here I quote, attending the council realized what was the matter with him. The caliph then praises God and addresses his family members, once again paralleling what we find in the Quran regarding Adam. The caliph says, "Do you recognize now in him what you once denied?" Following this is the marriage of the child imam to the caliph's daughter, and that will serve as the conclusion to the story for us for now. This part, the part that I said, is what concerns us. So I want to shift gears a little bit. My present interest in this story stems from a problem raised in a well-known article by Julia Annis called "Being Virtuous and Doing the Right Thing." Annis objects to the idea that ethics can provide us with a formalized way to determine right from wrong, what she calls decision procedures. In this formalized conception, ethics would be an almost technological enterprise, where a series of directives could determine what is moral or immoral in any particular situation. And if those of you who have taken courses in ethics at a university, this is not absurd. This is very common. Annis argues that this is not the case because the decisions we actually make are far too complex and specific to rely on such systems. The proposed decision procedure, ethical systems, might be compared to a computer manual, a technical sort of knowledge that directs any person to the right answer at any time. In fact, however, no one can put decision procedures into action consistently and avoid ethical failures. And the most famous example of this for virtue ethicists comes from Gertrude Elizabeth Margaret Anscombe, who famously refused to attend a convocation because of her protest of the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Why? It's not just because they were so egregious. It's because the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki actually make sense according to utilitarian ethical decision procedural systems. If you were to make that decision using that system today, you'd come to the same conclusion. The right thing to do is to wipe out those cities. Her protest is not because of the event, it's because the way of thinking would lead to more events like this. So, to illustrate Annis's criticism of ethics as a technical variety of knowledge, Annis has us imagine a child who can teach us how to use a computer. Or we can imagine a child who can teach us chess. Doesn't matter. Something technical. Could you ask that child a question that would require what we call wisdom? Would you ask that child to help you in your marriage? Would you ask that child to help you decide whether you should even do something small like euthanize your cat? Would you ask that child to help you make any decision that would involve a judge, what we would call judgment? A child with technical knowledge might be what we call an idiot savant, but he or she would remain what Annis calls a moral idiot. This is also true for people who are morally deplorable. Those we know to have very little ethical substance, but have mastered ethical theory. Would you feel comfortable, she says, relying on a horrible person, but who knows ethical theory well, because of their theoretical knowledge, to make a wise decision? Is the decision procedure, in other words, reliable enough that it simply does not matter who uses it? Or does it in fact matter? The reason that post-Enlightenment ethicists have offered such decision procedures at all, Anas argues, is that we want our ethics to be egalitarian, we want our ethics to be universal, we want a set of directives broadly applicable, determined by anyone, for such is what Enlightenment thinkers have argued is rational. And such is the basis of life in the modern state. You can't have a modern state without universal laws. How could you? Okay, so now let's apply all of this to the story of the Imam. The Imam's extraordinary ability might be read in two ways, at least two ways, many ways, but I'm going to focus on two possibilities. Here he stands before the Caliph, the Abbasid, the elite Abbasid elites, and the judge of judges, Ibn Aktham. One possibility is that the Imam provides them with a technical response, as one might expect from a detailed manual of fiqh, a detailed manual of jurisprudence, impressing them because he has asked an array of questions to extract a more precise answer. A person who has studied his or her fiqh well enough would appreciate that he's alluding to varied questions that exist about the matter of hunting while in pilgrim sanctity. But another possibility is that the Imam responds from a place of profound wisdom, so profound that even though he is merely a child, his wisdom qualifies him as something far beyond that. His response points not to a complex and technical knowledge, but rhetorically to a style of addressing such questions, a style that always caters to the specific circumstances of the questioner. A technical answer certainly would paint this 9-year-old Imam as the most knowledgeable person of his age, a genius in a way, because a child just shouldn't know so much, right? But if the Imam is using these questions to point to an awareness he always has, an awareness he draws upon when it is time to make judgments, then it would seem to address even more directly the concerns that the Abbasid elites had about his lack of ma'rifah, cognizance. That is, the Imam might be using these questions to point to the fact that his awareness reaches into particulars and responds to those particulars when making judgments. The way he approaches the judge's question differs greatly from the way the judge expects. Hence the judge's dumbfounded inability to respond. The judge wanted a technical answer. He gave him a wisdom response. The word fiqh and the phrase fiqh al-sharia in this case would correspond to more original usages of the term, as discussed by Wa'il Halaq. Rather than referring to the developed Islamic sciences, they would refer to a more intuitive, personal, and small community model that required the ability to make manifest God's commands in one's judgments. What would be practiced before the institutionalization that I mentioned earlier in the paper. Then there is the word that Ma'mun uses to describe the Imam's knowledge, ilham, or inspiration. It signifies that the Ahlul Bayt's knowledge comes from God. But what does this mean? Does divine inspiration give a person a knowledge of the whole, from which they derive particulars? Or does God give a person knowledge of the particulars directly and in detail? I ask that question earnestly, knowing that there will be a number of you here in this audience with interesting responses. Let's talk about it. The Quranic model of the Prophet's revelation and reception of the Quran on one night, Laylatul Qadr, elaborated over 23 years, would seem to indicate that there is initially an undifferentiated whole. In the story of Adam, that I've said many times runs parallel to this account from Kitab al-Irshad, Adam receives the names from God. That source of his knowledge seems at first to be a plurality, al-asma', the names, plural. But if those names are the names of God, then they point to one unitary essence. And if they are the names of exalted beings, that is the Prophet and his family, again, they are united by the one light embodied in all of them. That is, models of God-granted knowledge seem to point to a unity realization that brings with it a plurality. And this would apply to ethical knowledge as well. Of course, this is not a new observation at all. It's been elaborated in detail by the philosopher Mullah Sadra, even if my applying it to this narrative is meant to start a new discussion. So here I'm going to quote from Mullah Sadra. This would have been something good to put on a slide. I apologize for that. I said no slides, but I should have had one slide. Okay. In discussing, so now I'm reading, this is Mullah Sadra. If there were a slide, this would be on the slide. In discussing the Prophet's knowledge, the only difference they draw, the people that he is criticizing, Mullah Sadra is criticizing, is that the Prophet imitates Gabriel while others imitate human beings. They do not realize that imitation is not a kind of knowledge. Then Mullah Sadra quotes the famous hadith, the true knowledge is a light that God shines on the heart of any servant. Mullah Sadra continues, they suppose that the Prophet learned the Quran by heart as other people do, and that the Imams and the awliya, peace be upon them, have learned these things by listening to the narrations of others. According to the verse that alludes to Khidr, وَعَلَّمْنَاهُ مِنْ لَدُنَّا عِلْمًا, and we taught him from nearness to us knowledge. God has emanated knowledge on their shining hearts because of a spiritual connection with what is hidden, and then it has come from their hearts onto their tongues, and from the hidden to the observable. This model of knowledge and the model of ethical decision-making resulting from that knowledge mirrors what Ibn Arabi described when he traced his knowledge to one incident, an unveiling that happened to him as a youth, which became elaborated for him throughout his life. It is the model of unveiling and witnessing, or kashf and mushahada, that I and others have discovered elsewhere. That's the model. I'm not saying it's the same thing. Lastly, it is the model of knowledge described by Al-Ghazali and others, Maulana Rumi refers to it too, in his story of the Chinese and Greek artists. The lesson of which is that knowledge is not an accumulation of forms of knowledge on the soul, rather it is the erasure of human qualities in the soul so that the soul can reflect the light of God. Do you know the story of the Chinese and the Greeks? I have extra time, so I'll tell it to you. Mashallah, this clock is great. So in the story of the Chinese and the Greeks, Ghazali says it, when Ghazali says it, the roles are different. When Maulana says it, the roles are different. And it might come from Ikhwan al-Safa, but I'll leave that to Dr. Zaidi to tell me. So the story is that there's a king who wants to decide who are the greatest artists in the land. And he has I don't know what you call it. Do you call it a sofa? He has like a hall like this, actually. He has a hall like this. And he tells the Byzantine, or we say Greek, the Rumi artists, you have this wall to work on. Do your art there. And he tells the Chinese artists, Chinese famous for their miniatures at that time, you have that wall. You do your work there. And then I won't let you see what the other side's doing. I'll put a screen between you. We'll see who the better artists are. Well, according to Ghazali, the Byzantines get very busy with their paints. They bring every color imaginable. But the Chinese, they don't do that. They bring cleaning materials. They start to scrub. The time is over now. The contest is done. And the king looks at the Byzantines' work and he says, mashallah, this is wonderful. I can't imagine how this would be beat. And he looks at the Chinese and they seem to have done nothing but clean the wall. And they say, lift the screen. When they lift the screen, they realize that what the Chinese have made is a mirror. And the mirror, in reflecting what the Byzantines have done, is more luminescent, glittering, beautiful than what they created. What's the point? If you read in philosophy, they tell us that that to learn things is to accumulate forms of knowledge in the soul. Abu Hamid Ghazali is saying no. To learn things is to erase, subtract, remove from the soul human qualities, make it a mirror, and from that mirror, you will reflect the one light of God that gives you true knowledge. Here, let me clearly say and state without any ambiguity that I do not present any of this as a reconsideration of the way we talk about or think about or do Islamic law. Not at all. Rather, I would like to consider what is meant by this narrative and the complexity to which the ninth Imam points. Is it meant that there should be a book or a number of books with multiple different scenarios answered therein, any possibility that might occur when a pilgrim in sanctity kills an animal? In other words, is the Imam advocating for a decision procedure that anyone could use with enough knowledge in a technical way, perhaps even an intelligent child? Or is the Imam saying that the wise judge would get to know the person, get to know the situation of the person, ask them these questions, and on a case-by-case basis, every time determine what that person would need to do? Bear in mind that the Imam is speaking to the Qadi al-Qudat, the judge of judges, someone who evaluates other judges. Obviously, jurisprudential wisdom can unite both of these possibilities. It might be that the Imam's wisdom becomes a model for the sciences that imitate that wisdom. The Quran seems to support this view, namely, that God grants a certain knowledge by which a pious person interacts with others, illuminating their manifold lives in the process. And here I quote chapter 6 of the Quran, verse 122. Is the person who was dead, so that we brought him to life and made for him a light with which he walks among the people, like the one whose example is like remaining in shadows without being able to exit from them? That is how we have embellished for the truth coverers what they have been doing. This light, the light that the hadith describes as being cast into any heart that God desires, is on display in the Imam's response to Ibn Aktham, the judge. He walks with that light among people by showing them the effects of that light on the Imam's decision-making, so that it becomes for others what we would call moral reasoning. Certainly, jurisprudence, usul al-fiqh especially, is one of Islam's great contributions to global ethics. It has allowed the maintenance of a traditional way of life that has weathered changes that could have easily meant the abandonment of the Quranic way of life and the Sunnah. Yet the story of the ninth Imam as a wise child gives us a sense, when read the way I have suggested, that God's connection to us is not through laws that are elaborated on paper or a series of rulings that can be offered as a kind of procedure, something that is technical, but rather that God's connection to us is through people, and that those people are wise, that they have a light that God has given them. That light comes to be understood by others, imitated by others, so that it is formulated in a predictable and, one might say, rational way. Mullah Sadra would argue that through spiritual exertion and the elevation of our own immaterial dimensions, we can also enjoy glimmers of that light on our own. And here I conclude by saying that the narrative indicates that the Imam is a wise child. That's a paradox. Think about Julia Ennis's article. He has gained through inspiration the wisdom that should take someone a lifetime, or at least till middle age. This would indicate that ethics itself, maybe all forms of moral knowledge, are subject to revelation and inspiration. All forms of moral knowledge are cases of divine circumvention. If this is the case, this model suggests that one can receive directly and perhaps all at once the experiences that one should acquire over a lifetime. This would render ethics a counterpart to inspiration. All of ethics is an imitation of the inspiration given by God to his friends. And I apologize for anything I might have said that was wrong, offensive, or anything like that. Thank you for listening. Salawat.
Professor Zagar, there's The only thing that I found offensive was that you didn't speak for, you didn't give us more of your knowledge to benefit from. So thank you so much for that. Please, let's show our appreciation to Professor Zargar and all of the speakers on this panel with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now, we are, as is usual with these sorts of things, we are running slightly behind time. So we're going to have a minor change to the program. We are going to break now for Salah, followed by lunch, which will be downstairs. And then after lunch, we will return for the Q&A for the first panel. So we will start our afternoon session with the Q&A for the first panel, which means you have between now and then, so you have lunchtime to think up some really good questions for the panelists. So please get ready for Salah. I believe we'll be having Jama'at in the masjid behind me, and then there will be lunch downstairs. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Salawat.
Test, test.
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر ولله الحمد. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن عليًا ولي الله. أشهد أن عليًا حجة الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله. وصل اللهم على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.
استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. صلاة الظهر. الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أشهد أن عليًا ولي الله. أشهد أن عليًا حجة الله عليه السلام. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. يا محسن. الله أكبر. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله أكبر اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد والحمد لله رب العالمين ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربي هب لي حكما وألحقني بالصالحين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله الله أكبر الحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وتقبل شفاعته وارفع درجته بحول الله وقوته سبحان الله والحمد لله سبحان الله والحمد لله سبحان الله والحمد لله الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله الله أكبر بحول الله وقوته سبحان الله والحمد لله إلا الله والله أكبر سبحان الله والحمد لله إلا الله والله أكبر سبحان الله والحمد لله الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف الله أكبر الحمد لله كما هو أهله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد لا إله إلا الله العظيم الحليم لا إله إلا الله رب العرش الكريم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم إني أسألك موجبات رحمتك وعزائم مغفرتك والغنيمة من كل بر والسلامة من كل إثم اللهم لا تدع لي ذنبا إلا غفرته ولا هما إلا فرجته ولا سقما إلا شفيته ولا عيبا إلا سترته ولا رزقا إلا بسطته ولا خوفا إلا آمنته ولا سوءا إلا صرفته ولا حاجة هي لك رضا ولي فيها صلاح إلا قضيتها يا أرحم الراحمين آمين رب العالمين.
استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. صلاة العصر. الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أشهد أن عليا ولي الله. أشهد أن عليا حجة الله عليه السلام. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد والحمد لله رب العالمين. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وتقبل شفاعته وارفع درجته بحول الله وقوته. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. الله أكبر. بحول الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. يا ولي العافية نسألك العافية عافية الدين والدنيا والآخرة. الله أكبر. الحمد لله كما هو أهله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم إني أعوذ بك من نفس لا تشبع ومن قلب لا يخشى ومن علم لا ينفع ومن صلاة لا ترفع ومن دعاء لا يسمع اللهم إني أسألك اليسر بعد العسر والفرج بعد الكرب والرخاء بعد الشدة اللهم ما بنا من نعمة فمنك لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك
اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توعا تمتعه فيها برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين السلام عليك يا رسول الله السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك عليك مني جميعا سلام الله عبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين زين العابدين ومحمد الباقر وجعفر الصادق وموسى القاظم وعلي الرضا ومحمد تكي وعلي النقي والحسن العسكري السلام عليك يا مولانا يا صاحب الزمان السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان السلام عليك يا إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان أجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك ورحمة الله وبركاته
Okay, everyone, taqabbalallah amalakum. Just to let you know that lunch is being served downstairs in the banqueting hall. Please proceed downstairs for lunch. We will reconvene for the main program at about 2:30, inshallah. So we will be reconvening at 2:30. Please proceed downstairs and grab some lunch and some caffeine. And we will reconvene at 2:30 for the Q&A session for panel 1.
Hasan. Dear brothers, scholars, Assalamu alaikum. I've heard that the scholars, all the ulama here on my left, are going to go upstairs, and we all have to then follow. Exactly in 6 minutes' time, the session is starting. So please make yourselves going up. And don't forget there are brownies, yeah? So take that with you, inshallah. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Brothers and sisters, inshallah, we'll start in the program soon. If you can proceed upstairs in the Zainabia Hall for both ladies and gents. The program is going to be starting in a couple of minutes. May I ask everyone to please proceed upstairs so we can start the program on time. Thank you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين. I hope everyone had a pleasant lunch. I'd just like to thank the team at the JCC for such outstanding catering. It was very, very difficult, I think, for all of us, the speakers included, to tear ourselves away from that banquet to bring ourselves up here. So thank you. We are running a little bit behind, but we will endeavor to catch up somewhat. We finished the last panel without a Q&A, and we said we would postpone that until after lunch. So I'd like to invite our speakers from the first panel up to the stage. That is Sheikh Arif Ali Hirji, Alma Razia Batul Najafi, and Professor Cyrus Zargar. If I could invite you up to the stage, please. Please recite a salawat. Behind you. Okay, so while we have our speakers coming up to the stage, so if you guys want to, you sit here, here, either one. So just while our speakers are getting settled in, I'm just going to run through the protocol for Q&A. If Alma Razia Batul could also come up to the stage, please, for the Q&A, if possible. So the way the questions will work, you can see that there's a QR code and a website just on the projected on the screens there. So we're using slido.com. Slido.com. If you go to slido.com/ICAIR, you will be able to submit your questions, which I will receive on this wonderful piece of technology. You know, since we were talking about technology and faith, I will receive your questions on this wonderful piece of kit, which I can ask to the moderator. So that's option one. You know, if you feel like you just had lunch, you don't really want to get out of your seat, and you want to be able to submit questions anonymously, you can use Slido. I can see the questions are already coming in, so well done. Otherwise, the other option is you can line up behind one of these two microphones. We have one on the men's side, one on the ladies' side, and you can ask your questions. And what we'll do is we will alternate between the microphones and the Slido. So if I could ask the speakers to come up to if I could ask the questioners to come up to the microphones, that would be great. Also, could I ask on the women's side if someone could find Alima Razia Batul and invite her to come up to the stage? That would be much appreciated for the Q&A. Okay, so if you want to, please do line up if you have questions. Let's start, and let's encourage people to come up with questions with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Okay, so we have our first very brave volunteer coming up. So, sister, if you would like to ask your question on the microphone, Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you all for your amazing talks. Sheikh Arif Ali, I had a specific question. You mentioned the printing press and kind of the argument that the printing press was introduced into the Muslim world or the Ottoman Empire like hundreds of years later, and you kind of said there's different ideas about that and we can kind of argue about that. So I was wondering if what your understanding is, because that's what I had also read in a text, so if there's an alternative answer, I would love to hear that.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Sister Muhaditha, thank you very much for your question. So I sort of touched on it in two manners. One was a geographical point, where if you look at the history which is written by, I would say, Northwestern Europeans, more specifically when it comes from German, Austrian, as well as sort of Anglo-Saxon later, It's more about the printing press and its inventions in the 1400s. If we go more than a century before that, you see different kind of printing presses in the East. So that was one angle. The comment I made was regarding after the 1400s, going into the 1500s, the printing press was actually presented to the Islamic court. And there are some documentation or basically narration specifically that when it was presented, it was seen as something which would be, how can I say, that time bid'ah, basically. And it would be a point of going away what we normally do. So that actually was one of there's a theory there, there are some books written about that, why the Islamic civilization maybe didn't accelerate or actually stalled was one of those reasons. So I can share some articles on that if you like, but that's basically one of the theories. That's not all the points. Then I said also another aspect that, well, maybe we excelled in a different way, but that's a longer explanation. Thanks.
Okay, from the brother side, please. Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Thank you all for your speeches and your engaging talks. It'll be a question regarding the mirror and comparing that to the analogy of the Michelangelo painting where there's God, yes, God touching the finger of Adam, and there's that intellectual intellect as the bridging entity in between the two of them. And from actually Sheikh Shuja's analogy he gave, like when Allah Azza wa Jal created insan, was unlike the mirror, because when I see my reflection in a mirror, the reflection isn't looking back into me, but rather Allah Azza wa Jal created us insan to be like that eye that is looking right back into him. Allah sees himself in us. I don't know if I got that correctly. To explore, to push this analogy further, is it possible that just as parents we learn more about our relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal through our relationship with our children and improve on that relationship with Allah simultaneously, could we, by exploring AI and us touching AI and robotics, learn more about, basically would be creating intellect, subhanAllah. I mean, I don't know if we've even managed to create artificial stupidity, but would we be able to see further into Allah using technology? Could this help us through here? Thank you.
That's a very good question. So I really liked your consideration of the mirror metaphor, and I think what you might be referring to is the Fas Adam in the Fusus al-Hikam of Ibn Arabi, where he says that the cosmos was a mirror, but it didn't have that principle of reflexivity that existed in Adam, alayhi salam. And that Adam and he does a play on words, that insan is, al-insan is like insan al-ain, the pupil of the eye. What makes Adam, and this will be my answer to your question, what makes Adam, according to Ibn Arabi, have a capacity for knowledge that the angels do not have? The angels are disembodied. They're mujarrad completely. Adam is not. What makes Adam special is that he's made from teen, he's made from the lowest of the low, he's made from earth, but Allah breathed into Adam of his spirit. نَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي, breathed into him of his spirit. The combination of spirit, pure divine spirit, and matter, which is the closest thing to non-existence, these two things together yield Adam's capacity for knowledge, which is universal. It's like the universe. Because if we think of the universe as high and low, spiritual and material, they're all in Adam. Why do I say this? What is AI? It's not intellect, but it is disembodied. And this is something people don't talk enough about. I don't think you can have anything resembling human intelligence without the human body. It is impossible. Our way, first of all, where do, and Christianity too, Christianity and Islam, where do they stand on what is qiyamah? When a person dies, what happens to their body? Are they with their body? Are they in their body? No. So what's qiyamah? It's the return to the body. Why do you need a body in the afterlife? Have you ever asked this question? If everything is disembodied, if everything is spiritual, if spiritual is better than material, then why would Allah emphasize people literally coming out of the grave, brushing dirt off of themselves? It's the body. The AI is not AI. AI is a simulation, as far as I can tell. Of course, astaghfirullah. I know nothing about AI, but as far as I can tell, AI is not intelligence the way I know intelligence. A human being learns things from being engaged in the world, through the senses, through the body, and then has a knowledge of the world that's connected to the world. AI is not that. So I'm not skeptical of AI. I think it's a useful tool, and I really appreciated Brother Arif Ali's talk. I use AI actually sometimes. I think it's a very useful tool. I found it's very good as a thesaurus, actually. Because with ChatGPT, if you tell it, I'm looking for a word that means this and this, it'll find you the combination of those two words quite nicely. Thesaurus can't do that. Alhamdulillah. Maybe, and it does seems to do a lot of other things, very important things that the brother was talking about. But the human being, mashallah, don't underestimate yourselves, brothers and sisters. Allah says that this is the best. The Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt come from this because of their bodies. And I'll end with this. I've gone on too long, I apologize. Why do you make ziyarah to the grave of an imam? Because the body of the imam, the level of the body of the imam is like, if you read about it, it's like an equivalent to the spirits. The body of the imam is important. The embodied imam and the chain of the imams, it comes from them being living human beings. So I end with that, inshallah. Maybe we can pick up later.
Thank you so much, Professor Zargar, for that. That was very insightful. Now a question from our online questions coming in through Slido. Critics claim that the Quran promotes a flat, geocentric Earth and outdated science. How can this be countered effectively? Anwar Razi, would you like to take the first answer of that question?
I don't think so. Quran, not say about the flat earth. You know, the way I have shared the ayah, كل في فلك يسبحون. So our Quran, the ayat of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, is just having all this beautiful information, which is, endless, just we cannot even translate it in the proper way. So it's not like that the earth is flat, yeah? And what about the Christianity? What they say? What is the question?
Sorry, the critics say that the Quran promotes a flat earth and outdated science.
No. Yeah. So, inna la musi'un, the ayah which is beautifully explaining about the expansion of this universe, is the actual answer of this question.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's very insightful. And now from the sister side, sister, if you would like to ask your question. So we're having a drawing. Can you try this? There's a switch on. There's a switch on top. We can hear you, but I think the rest of the audience might not be able to. Sorry, let me.
Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, by the mercy of Allah, we're gathered here. I have a question. I found your discussion quite remarkable about science and physics and Surah Kahf and the ayat you brought about the light, mashallah. You left your talk on a very important note that leads into gender and politics and empowerment of young women. You said, if I have my notes correctly, and I would love for you to expand on this, that the end of times will show us two important things. This change of time, like the slowing of time in its essence, potentially maybe more barika in the time. I would love to know more about that. And also the fact that young girls will be able to extract jurisprudence directly from the Quran. That has huge ramifications for Islamic schools, masjids, on how we can empower girls to become more like leaders in the ummah. I would love to know more about what you think about that.
Thank you, sister. I think your points are very nice, and thank you for your kind words. I'd like to maybe do a reflection of where we are today. And also, Alima Razia Batul actually touched on it as well. The gender aspect, I can see today in this hall that we are 50-50. That there are a lot of females, our sisters, who are not only in numbers coming for knowledge, but also their style of asking, being proactive, sometimes surpasses. Now, what is that? Is that not a proof that you are closer to the religion and Quran? So that actually confirms certain points. If you look at who are the teachers of the Quran today, it is the mothers and sisters, but not only in reciting and learning, but also tadabbur and thinking. I would say that the traditions of the Zainabiyun and the Lady Fatima alayhi salam is hence present in that way. And you may wonder that in this hadith per se, that it said about young females, young sisters. Now that's very interesting because you only have to go back 50 years, 20 years, dare I say 15 years, where access to education in multiple places around the world was not equal, not even close, even today it's not. But you can see females accessing education completely different. And hence when it comes to linking to the tool, Allah subhanahu, the nur which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given is the Quran, I don't find it at all surprising that the female would be being able to access and interpreting from Quran and reflecting on the Quran. Those are my few points on the back of that. Ahsan.
Thank you very much, Arif Ali, for that. We're running a little bit short on time. We've got about 7 minutes left in the Q&A, so I'm going to ask that no more questions be submitted, and we've got 3 people standing up. So if you can keep each of your questions to about 30 seconds, and then each of the answers, we'll do a quick fire round, like about 90 seconds each. And I think what we can do maybe is get all of the questions in, and then get some reflections from the panel, if that works for everyone. So, Sister, Bismillah, and then we'll come to the gent side, and then we'll come back to our willing victims, our speakers on the stage.
Yeah, it's working. Assalamu alaikum. So this is a question for Alima Razianti. So you talked about technology and faith, and there was a lot of examples about your childhood growing up with the reflection of how science is progressing and what the evidence were in Quran. So right now, a lot of our children, they have a lot of new digital information and sources like the AI, ChatGPT and stuff. But as a parent, I have put so many restrictions on the amount of electronic use that the children should have, but at the same time, society and our generations are changing. And to tell a kid that you can only be on your computer for an hour a day is not possible, because education, even like in madrasa, all their homeworks, every correspondence is just done digitally now. But at the same time, as an indigenous social worker, I value the whole concept of grounding yourself to the earth, Mother Nature, the universe, because they found that that's where spirituality lies. And our children don't have that anymore in an Islamic context. Right, coming to mosque programs and stuff, they don't have that grounding. So from your knowledge, can you recommend for mothers and our community in general, how do you bring technology and our spirituality in an everyday life for our children, not just these little particular moments? Jazakallah.
I think it was a specific question. Yeah, specific. Yes, please.
Yeah. We can use the same gadgets and the technology for increasing our faith, the way it is really recommended that we should, as a mother, especially as a parent, we have to be reach to that level of advancement ourselves. And if firstly we enjoy ourselves, the religion and the way we use the technology and social media for a very positive purpose, then automatically our children will follow us, because for me, it means a lot that if we keep telling them that don't use it, no, they have to use it and they are using it, but we have to give them the direction. For example, if you don't have any good purpose in your life, nothing focused, your vision is not that clear, then we are just, end up with scrolling the social media, and the way our kids, they do it. But if you have a mission, family mission, the way I used to have it in my childhood, my father even used to sing for me Hadisi lullabies, and until the last few months before, he always used to give me love with ayat, and he would express his muhabbat with ayat and ahadith, and he would tell me, Mama, you have to be hadisi, then you will become a Qur'ani. So I think if we just turn our social media, today the way we are talking about science and technology, all this amazing, beautiful new research and the clips which we get and apps and everything, then automatically, you will have that conversation in the house. So I never talk to my children like that. Hey, what are you doing? How was your day today? The same boring style. You as a mother, if you are updated, if you have studied something which is full of excitement, and you have learned something remarkable, if you share that and sometimes I ask them, my son is, for example, Ali, come, Mama doesn't know how to do this, come, help me out. Mama doesn't know so many things, you know better than me, even when it comes to spirituality. So give them that respect, izzat, muhabbat, and ask them how, take support from them, especially when they are the teenagers, inshallah. So we don't have that much time to talk about all the beautiful tips which we have. So by having that, love of, and meaningful life, you can bring that meaning in your family. So first we have to share. I literally hate the ways most of sometimes our mothers, sometimes they don't have the clear, vision in their life. They're not that much, sometimes very projective. Working is in their own place. It's not necessary. If maybe you're working, then in weekends, for example, you are just, sitting with the screen and just, sometimes we are wasting our time. So inshallah, by bringing that beautiful change within ourselves, our children will going to follow us, inshallah.
Thank you so much, Alima Razi Batul. Okay, now we really do have to make this a quick fire round. So see if you can ask the challenge now, gentlemen, is to ask your question in as few sentences, about 1 sentence or less, and then we'll try and get very quick responses from the speakers. So
my question cannot be conveyed in 5 seconds, I'm sorry.
Okay. Could you do your best?
So assalamu alaikum. Thank you for the enlightening discussion about the different issues related to technology. There is a question that we sometimes fail to ask when it comes to AI, and that is that we can create AI, but should we? And already it's creating so many issues in different fields that I'm not sure we have really addressed as in terms of scholarship. Have we addressed some of these issues? Like I'm going to give you a very quick example here. There's a whole concept of how AI can create deep fakes, fake imagery. I was listening to a lawyer discussing the concern he and many other lawyers have that visual evidence for crimes may not be admissible because the images cannot be trusted to be real. And this is a topic which is just one of many practical concerns that are arising because of the advancement of AI and its interface with our day-to-day life. I was hoping one of you or the scholars behind me at some point later, if not now, could address this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. And brother, if you want to ask your question as well, then we can turn this to the...
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So this question goes out to Professor Cyrus. Honestly, the way you described everything, our universal ethics, and relating that with fiqh was honestly beautiful. Complete change of perspective for me in a way. Right, so I wanted to ask about how you mentioned that wise people, for us, the project this light, and from understanding that light, we can kind of implement it in a way, a portion of it, or like mirror it in a sense. So I just wanted to ask you, because you said, textual knowledge holds that portion of light within it that we can use to understand it. So like, where is that line that you draw to understand whether a certain piece of knowledge holds light or a certain piece of knowledge is simply to be followed? Or is it that they both coincide at one point? Every piece of knowledge has a certain amount of light. Yeah, so that's my question. Hopefully you can answer.
Thank you. And final question.
I have a final question for the Ms. Razia.
Please, go ahead.
From the Eisenhower, 3 books. I passed exam on Vienna, and I like it more you speak out, because on German language it's very hard to me to translate in English. Can you do the little bit about the Eisenhower? I will be helpful so much. I like it that your speech, everything about him, how he traveled, France, whatever, Germany. And please do that now. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. So
I passed exam in Vienna.
Thank you. So I'll now turn to our speakers. I believe the last question was about Einstein, yes. So if we could perhaps do that in the order it was received. So would you like to take the AI question, Sheikh Arif Ali, and then Cyrus, and then Sister Azia? Then if we can limit our answers to 1 minute each, that would be brilliant. Oh, could we have a 1 minute timer on the screen, please, for the speakers?
Okay, I will start answering before the timer, so I'm cheating double, yeah?
Excellent.
Brother's question was very interesting. It's at the core of things, okay? At the core of things is actually an ethical question as well. I'll divide my answer into 2 parts very fast in few seconds. Can we stop AI or restrict? Answer is probably not, and at most partially. The more question is, should we? Well, we already do curb certain parts of not using technology today to its fullest extent. Let me give one example, maybe a bit controversial. What is the relationship between man and woman? What is the thing that a teenager or a child should look at, internet or not? Which TV program should you look at or not? The technology is there, but do we then teach, have a norm, create a culture not to do it? Challenging, but that's something which is the big challenge of this generation. So that's one part. Second one was a jurisprudential angle, which is a dilemma angle. What about when somebody is put to court and they are maybe accused and they're not actually the one you try. I think many people have watched the movie Minority Report, and it came back, and there were people who can see the future, and you arrested people before the action happened. This is the kind of question this was actually, which came to my mind. And the whole idea is there was something which went wrong. Do you have a fair qadi? Do you have a person, a system in place? And Professor Cyrus actually touched on the angle that what the human being can do and put all the things together. And if you link to the point of Imam Jawad with more questions before coming to a conclusion, outstanding. I won't answer more. I keep that cliffhanger. Thank you.
Okay, that was an excellent question, and I'll keep it under a minute, inshallah. So the question, to repeat it, is, so in summary, where do we get the light, right? Where do you get this light by which you can, practice wisdom and have wisdom? So I think that one thing I point out is that we have to stop separating knowledge and practice. So when Faiz Kashani is talking about knowledge, he quotes part of a Quranic verse, Ittaqullah yu'allimukumullah. Have taqwa of God, God will teach you, right? You fast for 30 days in the month of Ramadan. You don't think of it as a knowledge exercise, but it is. And if you do it right, you'll come out of the month of Ramadan you can come out of it with taqwa, and the taqwa can give you wisdom. So I have 19 seconds left. So last point. When the Quran talks about the community that's the closest to the Muslims, and if you were to ask Muslims today, which community is the closest to Islam? Immediately the mind of the Muslim goes to doctrine. Oh, well, they're muwahid, and they have, let's say, Trinitarian monotheism. When the Quran describes the community that's closest to the Muslims, it doesn't focus on doctrine, a theological doctrine. It focuses on practice, on having a pious approach to the one God. Why? Maybe it gives you a kind of knowledge that's the reason why we're doing all of this. So I'll leave it at that. Inshallah, maybe in the future we explore it.
Definitely, thank you. Okay, please, if you want to go ahead and respond about I think the question was on Einstein, elaborating more on Einstein. Eisenhower. I think just for concerns of time, just because we're a little short on time, we need to cut the panel short there. So I'm sorry to all of the questions we've had online that we haven't been able to get through, and some of the questions from the audience too. But we do need to move on, and so I'd just like to thank our three panelists from panel number one. Professor Cyrus Zargar, Sheikh Arif Ali Herji, and Alima Razia Batul Najafi. Thank you to the three of you so much for sharing your wisdom and insights with us. And I'd ask us all to show our appreciation with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.